This is a mistake that I made, but I'm hoping that whoever's watching and listening right now can learn from this mistake.
Justin Timberlake, a Grammy-winning artist with what's likely millions of diehard fans, was the subject of a very different kind of attention on Friday because he stood before a New York judge and admitted to being impaired before he got behind the wheel of a car. Law&Crime was there as the A-list celebrity headed into the courthouse, and we're discussing it all with criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. You know, I was thinking for this story, was I going to say that Justin Timberlake doesn't have to say bye, bye, bye? That he won't be crying a river? I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to do that. How many headlines are you going to see like that today? No, not here on Sidebar. But here's the thing. Justin Timberlake, he's sort of off the hook. It's been a few months since news broke that the pop superstar was arrested for DUI in New York, carried up to 1 year in jail. And now he has officially entered a guilty plea to a lesser offense of DWAI, driving while ability impaired. Now, cameras, they weren't allowed inside the courtroom, but our cameras were rolling as Timberlake arrived at the courthouse, walked inside. You can see the huge crowd of people gathered to see the one-time NSYNC frontman who has gone on to have his own successful solo music and acting career. And back in June, we remember that the Tennessee native was in Sag Harbor, New York. It's an upscale village in the Hamptons on Long Island, when a police officer said that he saw Timberlake swerving in his BMW after leaving the American Hotel. And get this, by the way, when we talk about this area, this community is only, I believe, about 2 square miles, and it's just been inundated with spectators and media that are interested in Timberlake's court appearance. So you can imagine how disruptive that was. Now, Ray Tierney, who is the district attorney for Suffolk County, told Page 6 on Thursday, quote, "The one thing that we want to make sure we're doing is being consistent. And we don't want to treat any defendant better than others because of any perceived notoriety they may have." And he also said that he doesn't want to treat them worse. By the way, you may recognize the name Ray Tierney. He's prosecuting Rex Heuermann right now. He's the person that authorities believe is the alleged Gilgo Beach serial killer responsible for the deaths of multiple women, currently facing 6 counts of murder after the women's bodies were found along Gilgo Beach on Long Island. You compare that to what we're talking about here, obviously this pales in comparison, but it is all part of the same criminal justice system. And not to make light of this, right? Driving under the influence or driving while impaired, serious. You're putting your life, you're putting other people's lives in jeopardy. And going back to this, Timberlake and his lawyer, they have repeatedly said that he wasn't drunk at the time of his arrest, but his story did change a bit on Friday, admitting to the judge that he did consume alcohol before he drove, that he was in fact impaired. He agreed to plead guilty to DWAI, which is not a drunk driving offense. You see, in New York, a DWI means you're legally intoxicated with a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or more. A DWAI, driving while ability impaired, can mean a variety of things if you've shown that you're physically impaired. And it's our understanding if you talk about alcohol, that could be between a 0.04 and 0.07% blood alcohol content. And by the way, it's a non-criminal offense. It is a traffic infraction.
A few weeks ago, I addressed all of you, and I said that my client was not driving while intoxicated. After much discussion and a thorough review of the evidence, today the district attorney's office correctly agreed to not move forward with that very charge. You see, the evidence revealed that my client finished the contents of 1 drink in 2 hours at the American Hotel. And contrary to what was reported, he wasn't drinking other people's drinks or warned in advance not to drive. He wasn't rude, he wasn't obnoxious, he wasn't belligerent. In fact, he was polite, and he was cooperative, and he was respectful during his entire encounter with law enforcement, as they were to him.
Hey, by the way, we love that you guys come to us here on Sidebar. It's not something we take lightly. We really, really appreciate you guys so much. And as a way to say thank you, we always like to take a minute to tell you about these really cool products and services and offers from our sponsors. And today, that is Odoo. Now, this is for all you business owners out there, those of you thinking of starting a business. Odoo is a free all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of applications that helps with the day-to-day of owning a business. Now, believe it or not, there are a lot of moving parts here at Law&Crime. So, for example, our HR manager can use Odoo to manage PTO and new hires info. First time I've ever been in there, I swear. Our sales guy can use Odoo's CRM platform. He's a special person. And here's the kicker. You can try Odoo for free right now. You don't even have to enter your credit card. So click our link, odoo.com/LC Sidebar in the description and pinned in the comments, and try Odoo for free right now. So the judge in this case, although at first reportedly not totally on board with this deal, officially accepted Timberlake's plea and told him he has to do 25 hours of community service for 1 year at a nonprofit of his choosing, and he has to pay a fine of $500. And he also has to create some sort of public service announcement about impaired driving. We can't tell if the announcement that he makes outside of court fulfills that obligation. And according to observers inside the courthouse, Timberlake said he had time to reflect on his actions, and they didn't really live up to his own personal standards. And he reiterated that to the people that were gathered outside.
Good morning, everyone. So I don't know how many of you were in the courtroom and heard what I had to say in the courtroom, but I'll reiterate that and say this to you. Many of you have probably been covering me for a lot of my life, and as you may know, I try to hold myself to a very high standard for myself. And this was not that. This was not that. I found myself in a position where I could have made a different decision. But I've had some time to reflect on that. And I also understand by, the fact that all of you are here, that I have a platform, you have a platform. We share that platform. And so what I'd like to say to everyone watching and listening, even if you've had one drink, don't get behind the wheel of a car. There's so many alternatives. Call a friend, take an Uber. There's many travel apps. Still, take a taxi. This is a mistake that I made, but I'm hoping that whoever's watching and listening right now can learn from this mistake. I know that I certainly have. And like I said, even one drink, don't get behind the wheel of a car. I also said this in the courtroom before, but I grew up in a small town. So I can appreciate and understand the strain or unique nature that this must have been on the people of Sag Harbor. But I just want to say to everyone who's been involved, from everyone in the courtroom to everyone outside, including the police department, that I'm very grateful, and I thank them. And I guess in closing, I'd like to say we can all be more safe out there. And I'm going to do my part. I hope that everyone else does their part. And thank you very much.
But going back to what happened here, in the arrest report, the officer selected the operating while in an intoxicated condition option in the report, which it's our understanding indicates that the officer couldn't be sure if Timberlake was impaired by either alcohol or drugs, but he appeared to be intoxicated nonetheless. On the arrest form, the officer filled in failure to stop at stop sign line, failure to keep right, failure to keep right. Not sure why failure to keep right is there twice, but anyway. The officer wrote that Timberlake had poor coordination, eyes were bloodshot, glassy eyes. He also noted that he could smell an alcoholic beverage on him. Court filings indicate that Timberlake had trouble speaking to the officer while looking for his registration at the same time, and that he performed poorly on all the standardized field sobriety tests. Now, Timberlake, he refused to take a breath test at least 3 times, saying, "No, I'm not doing a chemical test," followed by a refuse when asked 2 more times. The officer also filled out an oral admission form after the traffic stop, saying the defendant made the following admission: "I had 1 martini and I followed my friends home." And because he refused to do a breath test, Timberlake's right to drive in New York was suspended, and I believe it was suspended for 90 days. We can't confirm at this point whether it was 90 days from when all this happened or 90 days from now. Hopefully we'll get a little clarification. So with all that in mind, I want to bring on criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla to talk more about this. Mauricio, thanks so much for coming on. You tell me, special treatment here? That's what everybody's going to be talking about. Was Justin Timberlake given special treatment, or is this something you see a lot, where you have a charge of driving while intoxicated reduced down to driving while impaired?
Well, when you say, did he receive special treatment, I would say that he received the same treatment that you would get when you hire somebody like the person that he hired. Mr. Burke, in this case, did a great job. He came out right off the bat, filed a motion to dismiss just to get his narrative out there. I'm pretty sure he withdrew it. But it's a smart way to let them know the weaknesses in their case. And then eventually he got a great deal for his client. It's something that I would expect when you have top tier representation. At the end of the day, for Sag Harbor or the town that this occurred in, this is not the type of publicity that they want. This is the type of place where very wealthy people go to vacation, to have a good time, and just to have this constant reminder out there that there is looming police that are, capable of pulling you over when you have a martini or two. I think it benefited the town as well as Justin to do away with this.
Wait, so are you saying that the district attorney was motivated by tourism reasons?
I mean, everything motivates. They're politicians. So at the end of the day, that could be something that factored into his decision. I mean, is it the type of publicity that you want? And I don't think so. I don't think.
Okay, but from if he's questioned, right? If he's pressured, give me the legal reasons. If they question the prosecutor, give me legal reasons why you wouldn't have taken this to trial, why you dropped the charge. Was it that maybe the case wasn't as strong to prove DWI versus driving while impaired?
I mean, the fast answer that he would tell you is that all cases have defects, and especially when you have a guy like Burke that came out right off the bat alerting everybody to the defects in their case, he didn't blow. So if we've learned anything from here is if you are intoxicated, if you've had multiple alcoholic beverages, don't blow, because at the end of the day, if you don't blow, it's the police officer's word against yours. If there's a camera on the vehicle, whatever the camera is showing regarding how you're performing during the test, but if there's no test saying that you are 0.09 or whatever, then it just basically becomes a trial wherein good lawyering comes into play and the testimony of the police and maybe of the actual defendant.
So you don't have to take a breathalyzer test if you don't want to.
You don't have to take a breathalyzer test. There are ramifications for not doing so. But if you're in a position where you know that you're going to blow over, then you don't blow, because whatever the ramifications are for failing to blow, they're going to be worse if you blow and you blow over. There's no, that's.
But just to put a ribbon on this point, you have seen cases before where it's not Justin Timberlake, it's John Smith, where it has been reduced, right? Where they might have been charged with driving while intoxicated and they end up pleading guilty to a traffic infraction. You've seen that before?
Yes, I've seen it. But
is it common? Is it common? I guess the question is.
In Miami, it's common in the sense that Miami's the type of place where they have so much crime and they have so much cases that it's an avenue to get rid of cases. So I practice a lot in Miami, and it's something that you see. And I'm not going to say whether you see it often or not. There's also different mechanisms to get rid of cases, pretrial diversions for people that don't have, prior DWIs or DUIs. But yeah, it's something that you see. Now, when you have a heavy hitter like his attorney coming in there, obviously that affects the decision making of the state attorney, because he knows that he's going to, if you want to take this to trial, it's going to be public and you're going up against a top tier criminal defense attorney. And I don't know whether a town like Sag Harbor wanted to do that.
It's a good point. And Mauricio, when I heard what he had to say outside of court, I thought to myself, first, wow, this is good for Justin Timberlake. He's talking about the dangers of driving while intoxicated. Get an Uber, get a taxi. And then I hear that he has to make some sort of public service announcement about impaired driving. I don't know if this statement fulfills that obligation. Assuming it does, makes it a little less genuine. I mean, important message, but was it less genuine? What did you think?
Well, when I saw it, I remembered when he got in trouble for Janet Jackson's wardrobe malfunction. And then he originally came out and said, well, we all like to give you guys something to look at. And then, talking about the media, and then they threatened to not let him go to the Grammys and get all his Grammys. And then he came out with this big apology that he was appalled. So when I heard that was part of his deal, I'm like, great, he's got experience in apologizing for things. So listen, when I listened to it, it was so flowery and saying this and that. Listen, at the end of the day, it was part of his deal. Whether it's heartfelt or not, I mean, driving while intoxicated is not a joke. And for people that, like myself, that practice criminal defense, we have seen lives ruined, many lives ruined. Not only the defendants, but people that you could hit when you're driving. So I think it's a good deal. Hopefully it is. He did learn something from it, because I really have a problem with not only anybody driving while intoxicated, but especially somebody that has staff, that you're rich.
Right.
You can
100%.
have come on. I mean, you can have.
Well, that's why people would look at this and say, he looked at the law, threw his hat on it, didn't really care, did what he wanted to do. It could have ended up much worse. I will say, though, I think at this point, the message is resoundingly clear about what he said. It's all true. You shouldn't. And thankfully, no one was hurt, including himself. When you look at the community service that he has to perform with a nonprofit, what does community service like that look like? And what happens if he doesn't commit the community service? What happens if he violates the terms of this deal? So 2 questions there.
Right. When you violate the terms of a deal like he's accepted, you have to deal with the ramifications of the underlying case. So he would have to, it revives the underlying criminal matter. Now, when you talk about community service with celebrities, which I've had probably, I don't know, with the fortune or misfortune of representing several celebrities, when they give them community service, we're not talking about community services that regular people do. Usually, they will usually want to take that opportunity and use the fact that they have a celebrity and they have a voice from a celebrity to, do PSAs and, take advantage of the fact that they have a celebrity doing community service. And it's a smart thing to do.
It's actually a win-win, right? It's publicity, doing the right thing, speaking at a nonprofit of his choice, but he also gets to fill the requirements of community service. Quick question on this last point, though. If he were to not do what he's supposed to do, there is a chance he could go to jail?
Yes. If you do not do what you're supposed to do, the punishment for the underlying crime is there. I mean, listen, it won't blossom from one moment to the next into him going to jail. There could be, a motion filed by his defense attorney, asking for forgiveness for whatever he didn't fail to do and asking for an extension to do it. I wouldn't think that, if his tour gets extended, he blows a deadline, there's ways to circumnavigate that. But if he flat out doesn't do it, and by the way,
no indication he's not doing it. Just trying to look at all the different avenues here, trying to make sense of what this deal looks like. Mauricio Padilla, really enjoyed talking to you. Would love to have you back.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.